This is a Dragon Blazer production, and I am the little boogeyman.
All right. Coming down the aisle, it's the podcast tag team champions of the world, the Rage and Blaze Show.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. I'm Rage. I'm Blaze. We decided to do something a little different today. So, Blaze, tell them about your instant message you received.
So I got a message from a fan named Nick Opalewski.
Oh,
I apologize, Nick, for
that's
butchering your name, which I apologize to him knowing I probably would butcher his name. I already texted him and apologized. But he contacted me and asked if we took requests. And, we're whores. Of course we do. We take all the requests. So he's requesting us to review.
If it makes sense to our show.
Well, yeah, it does.
Okay.
He's requesting that we review Saturday night's main event, the January 27th, 1990 episode. Now, he sent us a link. We're not looking at the link. We're going in completely blind, so we don't know why he requested it. But we're just gonna go ahead and we're just gonna watch this episode and review it for you guys.
Yeah, so we're going into this completely blind. We decided after he got the message, we're like, you know what? This sounds fun. Let's not even research what this episode's about. It is a little before what we've already hit. We're in, when was WrestleMania 6? I'm sure was at the end of March or April. I'd have to look up. That's usually when WrestleMania is. So this is January 27th. This is a little behind, like before what we're already at on our podcast. But we figured it's close enough in time frame to WrestleMania 6 that we'd go ahead and do this now.
Well, that, and we love having you guys contact us and ask us for requests.
Yeah, the interaction's awesome.
That's awesome. That's we got a random request from a listener, and we're super excited about it. So I don't care if it's like, well, we might not be doing this if this was like, if he asked for something in like the Attitude Era, where we're not even close to,
and we would kind of probably let him know, hey, we're not quite there yet, but when we get there, we'll definitely do a special episode. But his request falls perfectly in line
where we're at
on our podcast. So this definitely kind of works out in our favor. Now, the only thing we've seen, we've popped up the WWE Network. We have not clicked into it. So the only thing we see right now is on the picture of the Saturday night's main event on WWE Network. There's a picture of Hogan and Ultimate Warrior flexing. So
and their mouths open wide.
Yeah, and their mouths open wide.
Excited. Or screaming. I'm not really sure what exactly we're looking at.
It looks like
here.
Maybe they just finished a promo. So we obviously have Hogan and Warrior on this episode, but that's about all we know about this episode.
Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm glad somebody's interested in hearing our review on this. And I just want to personally thank you, Nick, for listening. Thank you, Nick, for sending us this request. This is going to be taking the place of second part of WrestleMania, 6? WrestleMania 6. And so this is almost like a season 2, episode 1 episode of South Park, not without my anus, Terrence and Phillip.
Okay.
You don't remember that?
I remember the episode. I don't understand the reference.
You don't understand the reference. Well, let me explain the reference to you and the listeners. So, the final episode of season 1 was Cartman's mom is a dirty slut. And it was when Cartman was trying to find out who his real dad is.
I remember that.
And at the end, they did not tell you who Cartman's dad is. They said you had to wait till the first episode of season 2 to find out when Cartman's dad is. So they went between seasons for the second episode to find out who Cartman's dad is. And instead of playing the second part of that episode, they played Terrence and Phillip, Not Without My Anus, as a bonus April Fool's episode. It came out on April Fool's and replaced the second part, pissing off a lot of fans in the only way Matt Stone and Trey Parker can. So we are replacing our second part with this. That's the reference.
Fair enough. I don't know if it quite holds the same weight, but okay. I mean,
we're making our fans wait one more week to get to the second part of WrestleMania.
Fair enough. Okay, however you want to look at it,
Except for it's not an April Fool's joke. This is just because this is slightly different circumstances. We're not trying to play a joke on anyone.
We just couldn't get our guest available this week.
We really wanted to get our guest to be on the second part, and scheduling conflicts. He has a job. We have jobs. So we weren't able to get him right now. So,
and that's kind of my fault. We were supposed to do it on a certain day, and my kids had a choir concert. So
yeah,
it just kind of unfortunately,
and he wasn't able to switch things around because of that situation.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to skip a week without an episode, and luckily we just happened to have this fan send us this request, so it just kind of worked out perfectly.
Otherwise, we'd have probably tried to find something to do anyhow.
We probably would have tried to find something to do because we don't want to miss an episode, but we also really want this special guest to show up on our show
during that episode.
Didn't he say he went to that episode?
No, that was in Canada.
That was like his first pay-per-view that he got to watch or something.
I don't know. It was a big deal for him to be on this episode.
So yeah, he really wanted to join us for that episode. So we are going to give you this bonus episode. So we're still giving you some content, and you're not missing out.
Okay. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and watch Saturday night's main event, January 27th, 1990. And we'll let you guys know what's special about this episode because, honestly,
we have no idea.
We don't know yet. Okay, so the show starts out with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura kind of introducing us to the show. And then immediately we go into a Hacksaw Jim Duggan promo, which was actually pretty good promo. So,
Hacksaw.
If you don't like that tough guy, then I don't know what to tell you. So I thought it was a good promo with him and Mean Gene Okerlund. And then we get a promo with Macho King Randy Savage and Queen Sherry. And that was a pretty good promo, too. Can you dig it?
Ooh, you're all a bunch of peasants.
Yeah, calling the fans peasants and everything. We also get a video, a little backstory on what's going on here between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Macho King.
We also get a little bit of threats to hitting a woman, so there's that as well.
A little bit of misogyny.
Little misogyny, little abuse to the Queen Sherry. I mean,
this is still early 1990. Yeah. We haven't worked out the kinks of the world yet. So.
Well, these women aren't listening, so I gotta beat them.
So it is what it is. But so anyhow, you just gotta take it for the time in which we're watching it for. Just remember that. So we do not condone the beating of women.
Don't hit women.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't hit women. So that's not cool. So anyhow, so then we move into the match and we get to see Macho King carried out in a chariot, like a where he's on a
throne.
throne and 4 guys are carrying it, the thing that he does. And then we get like a big deal of him stripping, basically, him taking off all of his entrance wardrobe to get ready for the match. And then the match starts, and I'll tell you what, this was an action-packed, really good match. This was a pay-per-view quality match, in my opinion.
This was good.
This was a very good match. And then there was added drama to this due to the fact that Macho King hits Hacksaw Jim Duggan over the head with a loaded purse, and Jim Duggan kicked out.
He did.
So it was like, oh my goodness,
He even said, well, this is about to be over, and then he kicks out.
Couldn't believe it. I thought that match was over as soon as he got hit with the purse, but it doesn't end that way. Although it still ends the way we expected with Macho King getting the pin. But he had a little help from Queen Sherry and the ropes just to beat Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Rage, this is just it's unfortunate for Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Queen Sherry just has a bit of a foot fetish, and she was just checking out his feet. So she was just holding on. She really wanted to check out those feet. So it's unfortunate, sure, but I don't think there was no malicious intent.
What about Macho King's feet on the ropes?
He didn't realize those ropes were there. It's just it was just an entirely unfortunate circumstance.
So Jim Duggan gets screwed here. Macho King up to his antics. He thinks he can get away with anything, and that's basically what happens.
Well, you're also forgetting this. We're talking about a king and a queen, Rage. A king and a queen. You expect things like this when you have to deal with the peasants.
Okay, so I don't know what else to say. I mean, I will say that this was a surprisingly very, very, very good match for this TV program that definitely is not a pay-per-view.
Possibly better than all the matches we watched in the first part of WrestleMania.
Yeah, the first part of WrestleMania 6. I mean, this was a very exciting match.
It was fun, entertaining, had a little bit of controversy. I don't think so, but apparently you seem to think there's some controversy with that ending, but I, disagree.
Oh, if you get a chance, go watch this match. I thought it was fantastic. So
Nick is steering us in the right path so far.
So far, Nick, you got us watching a good show. First match out of the gate's really good. So we'll keep watching and see why we're watching this. Maybe it's just a really good episode of good wrestling.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so after the match is over, we go to the back with another Mean Gene Okerlund interview with the team of Mr. Perfect and the Genius. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Perfect is just, I love this guy. I mean, I've always loved this guy, but it just reminds me how much I love this guy. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. How this guy was never WWF champion is just beyond me.
Yeah, this ought to be a pretty damn good match, considering we got 3 amazing legends
and then the Genius. Who decides to make his promo a poem,
which is what he had. I like his poems. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of enjoying his little trash talk poems. I don't know what your issue is.
Well, I mean,
it's pretty entertaining.
It's just a very different, how do I say, different than the rest of the superstars of that era. You got a lot of high energy guys talking and yelling in the mic and just full of energy, and then you just have him just kind of.
And that's what makes him stand out to me.
Doing his own thing.
Do you prefer the Ultimate Warrior talking about aliens and you're an unstoppable force, I want to be warrior.
If you go up 36,000 from sea level, you're gonna get turbulence. Yeah, it's always interesting to see what Warrior's gonna conjure up, though, because
the Genius is way more intelligent with his promos. I mean, I'm just saying.
Are we comparing any superstar being smarter than the Ultimate Warrior?
I mean, All of them are.
The
but-
man has talked about aliens and spaceship and moving mountains, and this man had definitely steroids. Don't do steroids, kids.
Don't do
It'll
steroids.
go to your head. This guy is out of control. But to be honest, I enjoy hearing what he comes up with next.
I'm not
because-
saying I don't enjoy it. I'm just saying.
He just kind of babbles on about just things, and you really don't have a clue what he's going to say next.
At
You
all.
you kind of believe he's an alien just because of the stuff he has said.
I'm highly convinced of that. Yes.
Yeah, he's definitely an alien.
He's
So
an alien.
no, but yeah, you had the Ultimate Warrior and Hogan do a promo with Mean Gene Okerlund. Hogan doing his typical awesome, great job promo, and then Ultimate Warrior doing his typical what did he just say type of promo. So
Ultimate Warrior doesn't say anything anything sane, but it's the insanity that's kind of enjoyable.
very much so. We very much like to hear what he's gonna say next.
Although we don't understand what he said after he says it, but we still enjoy the ride.
Right. Okay, so I'm just shocked right now that this match is next.
Yeah, this is not the main
Because,
event, and
yeah,
I'm
this is-
shocked.
Second match of the night, and you're putting the WWF champion and the WWF Intercontinental champion on as the second match of the night in a tag team.
As a
match. I'm very
tag team
surprised.
together,
So I mean, we still have about 45 minutes left. So just a little shocking to see this.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well.
All right. Okay, so this match starts off pretty hot and heavy. I thought this was actually one of the better matches we've seen from Hogan and Warrior. This was actually a pretty fun match. And I think a lot of it has to do with Mr. Perfect really elevated this match.
Well, yeah, when you have a perfect opponent, it makes you look better.
Yeah, definitely. He definitely made everybody else in the ring look good. And the overselling of some of Hogan's moves was just I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. I mean, he gets hit with the turnbuckle, he does a flip. So I mean, there's moments in this match where Mr. Perfect, I don't know if that's just how he was every match. I mean, we've seen him wrestle in some matches. I've never seen him do flips after getting hit with the turnbuckle.
Yeah, I think when we
so.
watched
This was great.
when we watched that match with the Genius, he was overselling moves quite a bit, which was pretty great.
Yeah, it really reminded me of Shawn Michaels, just the way he sold some of these moves that Hogan was putting on him. So I loved it. I thought they were great. Once again, just reiterates why Mr. Perfect was so great. It's just a shame he never held the title.
Agreed.
I mean, that right there showcased what a Hogan Mr. Perfect feud could have been. But unfortunately, it never happened. But it's just he's one of my favorites. He was awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving Mr. Perfect as well. And I think we've talked about selling moves quite a bit on this podcast, and I mean, there's a line there. Some people it's ridiculous and terrible, but it's not from overselling because Mr. Perfect's overselling these moves, and he's fantastic with it. I think it's just they got to make sense.
Yeah.
To an extent, you got to have a little line of making sense, where some people just do it when it's not the right time to do it, or they oversell it the wrong way. Like there's an art form to selling the moves, especially overselling. An art form that Mr. Perfect seems to do perfectly.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah,
okay,
thank you.
perfectly.
Perfectly.
Yes. So I think we found out why Nick had chose this show. It was Nick, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think we found out why Nick chose this show because at the end of the match, after of course Hulk Hogan gets the leg drop in the 1-2-3. After the win, Mr. Perfect and Genius, they attack the two of them. So Ultimate Warrior goes on a a tirade where he's like destroying anybody and everybody in the ring, and he accidentally clotheslines Hulk Hogan during all this confusion because he's just kind
Was
of
it an
knocking.
accident, though?
He's just knocking
Was
bodies
it?
down. So then you have Hulk Hogan push Ultimate Warrior, and then they kind of get nose to nose, and it
Like
really
anybody
did a
who
great.
gets in a fight are
Yeah.
gonna be shoving their foreheads to each other's forehead just to yell at each other. I'm sure that's what a real fight's
Well,
like.
they need the photo up for WrestleMania 6 that's coming up. So it was a very good starting build-up of the main event that we will definitely be covering next weekend. So, so kudos, Nick, for putting us on to this episode. So it definitely helps the build-up of one of the most, in my opinion, most memorable WrestleMania main events of all time.
Which I haven't seen yet.
Just insane to me.
I haven't gone through, and I mean, I'm doing it now with the podcast, but
Fair enough.
I never went back and watched a bunch of the old ones.
So, all right. So that, like I said, I thought this match was really good. I enjoyed it very much. And it's usually Hogan matches aren't all that great, but this one definitely was, I think, was a lot better due to Mr. Perfect's antics in the ring.
It was, yes.
He definitely helped elevate this match and the excitement and enjoyment of this match. And like I said, really wish he would have been able to,
Have a nice title run.
yeah. So unfortunately, what might have been. But let's
Why? Well, I got a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Why did Mr. Perfect? He had Hogan in the Perfect Plex.
Yeah,
He had him, and he let it go.
Yeah, that was kind of silly. He should have had the pin 1, 2, 3 on Hulk Hogan, and but
He really
unfortunately, he got cocky and let Genius come in and do his thing, and Genius, of course, squandered it.
Yeah.
Almost immediately.
But then we got another nice sell of when Perfect jumps off the top rope and
Hogan the boot
puts the boot up, and
that was great.
He does a nice sell of the boot.
That was great. I agree with that. So there was definitely a couple counter moves that happened there that Mr. Perfect sold very, very well. So so yeah, once again, definitely a very good match so far. 2 matches.
So far, really good.
So far, really good show.
Really
good show so far.
Thank you once again, Nick.
Okay. Okay, so the next match, or I actually have a correction to make. I've been saying Mean Gene Okerlund interviews. Some of these have been Jesse the Body Ventura interviewing.
Actually, most of them have been.
No, about half. I think he's been doing the
heels. Yeah.
Okerlund's been doing the faces. So I just want to make that correction. But they Mean Gene interviews Jake the Snake Roberts. Pretty good interview. And then we have a Greg the Hammer Valentine with Jimmy Hart interview, and it was Jimmy Hart talking.
Yeah, and I enjoyed his sign off. He's like, "Let's go, Greg."
Yeah,
like the cheesiest thing ever.
Yeah, well, that was pretty good. Pretty good Jimmy Hart impression there.
Thank
actually,
you.
I don't think that's the first time we've had that on the show. So yeah, that was pretty good. So so anyhow, so then they show us some footage of what we already had just seen with Hogan and Ultimate Warrior getting into it with each other, and so anyhow, we get that little back footage already. Obviously, there was commercial breaks during this show because it was on TV, so they were showing us what happened before commercial, and then this match happens, and to be honest, the match wasn't all that. It wasn't a bad match. It just wasn't a great match. But the way it ends and the way the drama after the fact was the fun part of this match, in my opinion.
Yeah, apparently we also found out that Jake the Snake Roberts apparently stole the $1 million belt.
Yeah, so he has it wrapped up in the bag with Damien.
With Damien, yeah.
So nobody will get the $1 million belt because he's hiding it in the bag with the snake. nobody wants to get into the bag with the snake.
Would you?
So $1 Million Man and Virgil come out and attack Jake at the end of the match, which ended up ending in a disqualification. Jake Snake Robert wins this match over disqualification, but Virgil is too scared to get in the bag. $1 Million Man's yelling at him, telling him get in the bag, and Jake Snake recovers from the attack and fights them off, and then pulls Damian out of the bag with the $1 Million belt, and they hightail it out of there because here comes the snake, and it's great stuff. I loved it. It was great stuff.
Yeah, it was Jake the Snake. Well, he shouldn't have been stealing the $1 Million belt. That's just rude. I mean, to be honest with you.
But it's fun. It's fun that he's literally sticking that belt
And he
in
got
the
that
bag with the snake.
That slithering snake slime all over that belt. It's just not cool.
But this was a fun moment. Like I said, the match itself between Greg the Hammer wasn't nothing special.
No.
There was no big moments. There was really nothing to write home about. I mean, we did get to see Jake put his DDT on the Hammer, but unfortunately, he didn't get the pin because of the interference.
Yeah.
But this was a fun moment, not really a fun match.
I agree.
Okay, so before the next match, we get interviews with Ravishing Rick Rude and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, so little things about that Ravishing Rick Rude and Bobby the Brain Heenan interview. Bobby the Brain Heenan just starts fat shaming, making fun of Sapphire for her large size. Ravishing Rick Rude, well, they essentially call her ugly, fat, and Ravishing Rick Rude, or they talk about Jesse the Body Ventura is all like, "Oh, I wouldn't want to touch that woman," and Ravishing Rick Rude said, put my hands on that woman," is what Jesse says, and Ravishing Rick Rude's like, "Who said anything about using my hands?" It was just wrong on all levels.
Wow. And then the American Dream, he had his typical exciting interview. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So this match was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. Little tidbits during the match though, is that Bobby the Brain Heenan and Sapphire got kicked out of the ringside area, just because of the commotion and everything that was going on in the middle of the match. So what does Sapphire do? She comes back and puts a seat in the front row, and she's holding a ticket. She bought a ticket. She bought a ticket. So she ends up coming back to ringside, except she's on the other side of the gate. And of course, Ravishing Rick Rude, had a little issue with this, and started getting a little distracted by it. But this was a pretty solid match, fun one, and but we really don't know who won, which is a weird thing. They ended up battling.
I think it's clear that it was a double count out.
I think it was a double count out, but they started playing the American Dream's music. So they didn't really give us an announcement on who won or if it was a double disqualification or double count out or what it was, because they were fighting outside the ring, and then they started playing his music and the match was over. So it was just kind of a weird ending to a very decent, good match. So that's my only gripe, was just the way it ended was just awkward.
Yeah. It was a good match though. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I love seeing both these men in the ring, Ravishing Rick Rude and Dusty Rhodes. Fantastic in the ring. There was a fun little Ravishing Rick Rude bounced off the ropes, threw Dusty off the ropes, tried doing like a shoulder block, not a flying one, but a regular shoulder block, and he does the shoulder block on Dusty Rhodes and then just falls straight down because Dusty is a rather large man, and apparently it hurt Ravishing Rick Rude as well. It was a fun match.
I agree. This was a good one, and so far, this has been a good show.
Yeah, and I liked Sapphire buying a ticket, and Rude got a little upset and grabbed her by the arm. Luckily, Dusty came to stop him from doing some more beating of women. Seems to be a theme of this show, but it's been a good show.
Don't seem to.
Not a lot of respect for women.
No, not a lot of well-being for the women.
Not at all.
Okay, so I think we have one more match, and I believe that'll be the end of the show. I believe we'll
Perhaps.
see. Okay, so we get an interview with it was Dino Bravo, and Earthquake was with him, and that's the only interview we get before the main event. Which very shocked. This is the main event. It was Dino Bravo versus Rugged Ronnie Garvin. And this match was just, once again, it wasn't bad, but it just wasn't.
This was a terrible main event.
It was
absolute terrible choice. We actually had a really good show. And almost any one of those would have been a better choice for the main event than Dino frickin' Bravo and Rugged Ronnie Garvin. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it was an odd choice of placing and how they placed everything. But, I mean, this match ended with Dino Bravo getting the pin, and then they didn't end there. Earthquake came in and gave him the Earthquake and then the Aftershock. Or I guess it's just all the Aftershock, but they like to point out that he does it twice because the Aftershock comes after the Earthquake or whatever.
Right.
So he gets beat up, and then medical personnel come out, and I'll tell you what, Rugged Ronnie Garvin really sold this injury. Or maybe he really was hurt. Who knows? But
I mean, imagine getting
he looked
sat
pretty,
on by that man.
Probably didn't take much, but definitely sold the injury really, really well.
Earthquake is a big boy.
But yeah, just kind of a lackluster main event for a show called Saturday Night's Main Event when they had so many good matches before it.
I've had my issues with Hulk Hogan, but by all means, that tag team match should have been the main event.
Well, yeah, you would think it would have been. But part of the reason I think it wasn't the main event is because they actually started hyping towards the end of the show. They started hyping another match that was going to be played like February 23rd on a Friday or whatever. So not sure what program that was going to be on, but it wasn't going to be a pay-per-view event. But they were advertising Hogan versus Macho King with Iron Mike Tyson as the special guest referee. So that's very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
So what we do get at the end of the show is a Macho King interview and then a Hulk Hogan interview referring to that match. So that's
loved the Macho King's interview.
Yeah, that's how the show ends, is with their interviews and then some final words with Jesse the Body Ventura and Vince McMahon. But yeah, just the choice of the main event was just kind of off.
I didn't realize how often Mike Tyson gets involved in wrestling.
Yeah, I mean this
because we know
this happened.
Yeah, it's this early,
Oh, this is when the height of his career. I mean, this is when he was super popular.
And this is this other thing that they just dropped the ball on. How do they end this show? With Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura just talking. Like, no bang, no nothing. There's 2 interviews and then Jesse and Vince McMahon talking. Like, that is not how you end a show, in my opinion.
You almost feel like you should have done those interviews earlier in the show, and then the finale, the final thing you should have seen was face-to-face Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. You just kind of feel like that should have ended the show, but it didn't.
I mean, that ending is not even talking about the main event, which the main event was atrocious. There is no reason that should have been the main event. That should have been the first match of the night. in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It was definitely awkward to have that as the main event. So it is what it is. But overall, I thought this was a very good show. It had maybe two matches that were just kind of one a little bit more than the other, but overall, it had a couple really solid matches
Yeah,
that
this was a fun
were
show.
definitely pay-per-view worthy type matches.
Yeah, this was a fun show. Thank you so much, Nick, for suggesting this to us. We really enjoyed it. Other than I know I'm bitching a lot about the main event, but I feel like you should be bitching about the main event too. I'm sure you have an issue with it too. But the rest of it
Nick
was so good.
bitching about the main event, and then that's why he asked us to review it because
Or we're being assholes, and Nick absolutely loves Rugged Rodney Garvin.
we just crushed Nick's
We
dreams.
just crushed his dreams, and he's not going to listen to us
We
anymore.
just shat right on his favorite superstar. We don't know.
Right. I mean, but I feel like he listens to our show, so I'm guessing that's not the case. And he just wanted us to see all the other great stuff that was in the show.
It was a great show, and it definitely held weight before. It was actually good that we watched this before the main event of WrestleMania 6 because we got to see that little tension going on with Hogan and Warrior. Definitely helps build up that match. So even though we're not going to get to that review show for another week, it definitely helped hype that up before we get to that portion of WrestleMania 6. So thank you, Nick, for that. That's pretty cool.
Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for suggesting this. Don't have anything. I can't say anything more than that nice about it. I mean, it's awesome. I'm just glad to know that people are listening, that you're listening, and you care what we're reporting.
So I know this isn't a pay-per-view. We're not going to do the whole segment thing with the build-up and everything. But just going to go ahead and ask you, Blaze, did you have a favorite match of the night?
Did I have a favorite match of the night? I think it would have to be the tag team match with Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior versus Perfect and Genius. I mean, that was a heck of a match. I liked a lot of them, but I really enjoyed Perfect in that match. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the tag match.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to follow suit there. I kind of had it a little divided on what I wanted to pick, but I think I'm going to have to also go with the tag match because that was just such a good match, and Mr. Perfect just elevated that match to a really high level. I really enjoyed some of his antics and some of his overselling. So definitely was the highlight. And as for the worst match of the night, I'm gonna just have to go with the main event.
It's the
Rugged
main
Ronnie
event.
Garvin and Dino Bravo. I think that match just didn't really have a lot going for it. Even what was the other match, the Jake the Snake Roberts match we had talked about. That match wasn't a great match, but the stuff that happened after the match was just
Yeah, there was
elevated it
enjoyable
to
stuff.
a very enjoyable segment.
And
So
I don't
I'm
even know if
definitely going to
I
have to go with the Rugged Ronnie Garvin match.
I don't even know if I would hate that match so much if it wasn't that it was the main event. The fact that it was the main event really elevates my hatred.
Yeah, definitely. The fact, yeah, it just
If
didn't
it was
really
just in the middle of the
belong.
show,
Just didn't belong.
anywhere else, I would have been like, "Huh, it's a fine match."
Okay,
But it shouldn't have been the main event.
Well, before we close this out, why don't we go ahead and plug the pluggables?
All right, you can find me on Dragon Blazer Productions on the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, and you can find me on Twitter at Dragon Blazer Pro.
Yeah, and don't forget to check all the different Facebooks, all the different Instagrams, and all the different YouTubes.
I think you're
that
mocking
that Blaze is referring
multiverse.
to. So you can find the Rage and Blaze Show on Facebook. You can find at the Rage and Blaze Show on Twitter, and it's at the Rage and Blaze Show on Instagram. My apologies, and it's at Ricky Rayberg on Twitter. So there's where you can find me and the show. And I'm looking forward to the finishing off that WrestleMania 36. Once again, apologize for the scheduling conflict. We will definitely get to the main event with Hogan and Ultimate Warrior. But hopefully everybody enjoyed this special episode brought to you by Nick. A big shout out to Nick for listening to the show and giving us the idea, and it definitely worked in our favor for the scheduling this week. It gave us
perfect timing.
Yeah, it was
Absolute
actually perfect timing because it gave us something to fill in with the conflict with the scheduling. We really didn't want to skip his appearance on our show, so this worked out in our favor without missing a show. So this worked out. So thank you, Nick, for that. And I'm Rage.
And I'm Blaze.
And good night from Rage's Pit.
Hey everyone, this is Blaze from the Rage and Blaze and the Boomer and Blaze show. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more wrestling content.